Welcome, everyone. My name is Victor.
And my name is Mark.
And hopefully you had a look at note-taking part 1. So now this is note-taking part 2. And we're actually going to use some of the ideas that were introduced in part 1, the note-taking ideas, and we'll be using them in part 2. So at the end of part 1, we had a quick look at this particular chart. And I guess you could say 2 lines, the blue line, the red line. What's happening with the blue line now?
So basically the blue line shows e-commerce sales. And as you can see, they continue to rise. Okay. But however, it's a different story for the department stores shown by the red line, which are still slowly and gradually declining.
So a story of great success versus a story of, well, decline.
Decline, basically.
Unfortunately. All right, so remember the note-taking tips. We're going to play you the actual recording of the presentation. And it's a good idea to listen to the whole thing one time. And then when you play it again, focus on taking notes. You can pause the recording maybe at the end of every sentence or maybe every second sentence. But what you want to do is really try some of the note-taking tips that we introduced to you in part 1. Okay, so listen to the recording and practice taking notes as you listen.
The year 2011 was a significant turning point in the retailing industry, perhaps a historic one. This was the intersection of 2 lines on the chart behind me, which had been converging since the early 2000s and are now heading in opposite directions. One is a story of great success, the blue line, and the other a story of a seemingly unstoppable decline, the red line. What I'm referring to is the slow death of the traditional bricks-and-mortar model of retail operators. This is best exemplified by the department store concept. There was a time when the department store was the cutting edge of retailing, the ultimate middleman purchasing an incredible variety of goods from all over the world and offering it to the wide-eyed customer, all under one roof in a large multi-floor glamorous building. In the 20th century, department stores became retailing wonderlands for customers to browse all day and indulge themselves in gourmet food and beauty treatments without leaving the premises. Perhaps the best example of this is the famous flagship department stores of Tokyo's Ginza and Nihonbashi districts, Macy's of New York, and Harrods of London. What many people do not realize is the enormous operating costs of keeping these gleaming buildings open daily. The electricity costs, maintenance, and the enormous labor cost of staffing, to name a few. These overheads are huge and need to be passed on to the customer in higher prices. Have you ever noticed their customers are getting older and fewer year by year? There is a reason for that. The younger generations have absolutely no need for all this and are just happy to shop around online for the best deals on Amazon or other e-commerce vendors. These customers try to cut out the middleman as much as possible in their transactions and look for the lowest commissions in every purchase. I am here to tell you that e-commerce is the future, and the bricks-and-mortar department store retail model will go the way of the dinosaur. A gradual extinction into just a small niche market serving a limited number of customers. As to when this may happen, I will leave it up to you to predict.
Okay, so hopefully you've done all your notes, and up on the screen we can actually see a transcript of the recording, and we're just going to go through some of the vocabulary shaded in yellow. Okay, so the first word is converging. How would you explain the word converging?
But basically they cross each other. It's 2 lines of crossing.
Yeah, so they get closer and closer together, and then they cross.
Yeah, they get to the same point, basically.
That was the 2011. The seemingly unstoppable decline.
Well, basically the decline has been going, the decline has been basically going since the year 2000, and it hasn't stopped at all, and it still seems to be continuing to decline. So basically, it looks like there's no way for department stores to stop this decline.
It's bad news for the department stores. It's an unstoppable trend, a trend that is heading downwards. Now, cutting edge. Now, we usually use this when we talk about technology, but
yeah, here cutting edge here means at the forefront,
like the latest, the coolest.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, there was a time when the classic department store was the cutting edge of retailing, and unfortunately, well, it's no longer the cutting edge. When we say middleman,
basically the middleman is they buy from someone and they sell to someone else, and they're in the middle,
and generally, take a certain percentage.
Yeah,
and it adds to the costs. Okay, so basically, cutting out the middleman means that you have cheaper products. So how would we describe a wide-eyed customer?
I suppose surprised with wonder, I think.
Particularly the first time that you ever experience entering a department store, you'd be quite amazed. You'd be very, very wide-eyed. And the idea of under one roof.
In one building.
I think they call it one-stop shopping, where you can get a whole range of products and services all in the same building. And of course, you're able to browse all day long.
Just go to the different departments inside the department store and just see what's on offer.
And, we often use it when we talk about the internet, like we browse on the internet, we just casually look around and look for different things. Okay, the next word, gleaming. How would you?
New and shiny, basically.
Right, very, very interesting, very, very amazing. Overheads.
These are your costs. So things like electricity, staff, maintenance.
Well, the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, having a very large building, with all these gleaming features, you're going to spend a lot of money just simply maintaining and opening that building. Okay, and kind of related to the word middleman is when you cut out the middleman.
Yeah, so you go directly to the producer of the goods.
Yeah, so there's no one in the middle to increase the price. The way of the dinosaur.
Well, dinosaurs are extinct. So basically, will department stores no longer exist sometime in the future?
And I think, this is a phrase that can be used in a lot of different situations, like any kind of business or industry or a company that really is in long-term decline. Sometimes called a sunset industry versus a sunrise industry. All right, and finally, a small niche market.
Well, small is but actually a niche means just for a few people.
Notice there's a couple of different pronunciations. Niche. It's originally a French word.
Yes.
Meaning a very small gap. All right, so finally, one important final step when you take notes is actually, looking through your notes, reading your notes carefully, and organizing the information into full sentences. So at the end of our note-taking activities, we usually have comprehension questions. So we're going to ask you a set of questions. And after we ask the question, have a look at your notes and try to explain the answer in full sentences. So the first question is, what is said about the blue and red lines and the department store concept, okay?
And the second question is, what is said about the department store model of the 20th century?
Question 3, what information did we hear about overheads of operating large bricks and mortar retail facilities?
And the final question is, what is said about changes in consumer behavior in different generations?
Right, very good. So, hopefully, you've had a good chance to practice some note-taking, practice some of the ideas that we've introduced to you. And it's something that you can develop through practice, because everyone has their own note-taking style, and you will gradually develop your own style as you do more and more practice. Okay, so that's it for today.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much for following our presentation, and
Do keep practicing your note-taking techniques.
thank you.
Thank you.